fellow Trek Chatters, I'm Pit Trekkie, and welcome to another episode of Pittsburgh's Trek Chat. Well everybody, it's finally here. The 6th live-action Star Trek TV series has finally hit the air. Hit just a few days ago on Sunday the 24th. The reviews for the show have been pretty mixed from what I've seen online. It seems like they're just kind of into two camps right now. Either you really love it or you're really against it. So what I wanted to do in this episode is go over the very first episode, the one that showed up only on CBS, not the one that followed afterward, the Vulcan Hello. So let me go ahead and get started, but before I get started on that episode, I just want to say happy 30th anniversary to Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm sure a lot of people became Star Trek fans because of that show, people that are my age. I'm 36. I was 6 years old when it premiered, and it really changed my outlook on things and how much I really love Star Trek. So happy birthday to that, and congratulations to the entire cast of The Next Generation. Alright, so going on to the series premiere of Star Trek Discovery, the Vulcan Hello. So basically, the basic synopsis of the episode was this. They started out, Captain Giorgio and the Commander Michael Burnham, the first officer of the USS Shenzhou. They were on a desert planet. They were trying to get some well going again. There was a lot of lengthy dialogue about how Burnham has served on the ship for 7 years, and that she feels that Burnham's ready for her first command. They had difficulty being able to contact the Shenzhou because of some sort of storm that was coming, so that the captain made some sort of Starfleet symbol in the sand, and the ship was able to come down and transport them on board. There's also the issue with the Klingons. The very beginning of the episode, you had, I believe his name is Takuvma. He was talking a little bit about humanity and the Federation, and it not being kind of gelling with the Empire, or something to that effect. Also, at the beginning of the episode, we found out that one of the Federation's relays had been damaged. And so Commander Burnham, because of a lot of radiation or such thing, she volunteered to go in a thruster suit to go check out what it was. But she only had 20 minutes before she would reach critical radiation levels. So she went in a thruster suit, found some sort of odd object out there, and she ended up going against a Klingon torchbearer. Now, according to the show, the Federation hasn't seen the Klingons in about 100 years. So this is kind of like a first contact almost. So she killed the Klingon torchbearer. And then inside the sarcophagus ship that the Klingons have, they ended up actually putting that character into a sarcophagus and then sending him to the outside of the ship. Apparently the ship's outlined with coffins. Burnham tries telling everybody that what she saw was Klingon. Nobody seemed to really believe her except for the captain. So finally a Klingon ship, the sarcophagus ship, appears. There's this big bright white light that's being emanated by a brand new torchbearer. He's the one with the yellowish, whitish skin. They seem kind of to be the outcast in the Klingons. He didn't have a house. So once this big bright light activated, Burnham ran into, I guess it would be her quarters, and she contacted her mentor, Sarek, kind of trying to ask for advice on what to do. She comes back to the bridge and says that, like Vulcans, they should attack first because that's what Klingons understand. Giorgio said that that's not what she wants to do, and then in the process, Commander Burnham uses the Vulcan neck pinch on her to decapacitate her. She tries to get the crew to fire on the Klingon ship, and the episode ends with Giorgio holding a phaser to Burnham and then Klingon vessels approaching. So that was the first episode. What did I think about the episode? Overall, I thought it was a pretty decent episode. One thing I did like at the very beginning was when the Shenzhou came down through the atmosphere, through the clouds, to come and get Giorgio and Burnham and transport them back to the ship. I thought that was really cool, seeing the ship come down, seeing it up close, seeing what it really looked like. That was interesting. I also really liked the transporter effect with that digitized kind of look to it. It was pretty cool. The Klingon sarcophagus ship, I actually thought that was really interesting. When I first saw pictures of it months ago, when it was first being shown, I didn't like it. As a matter of fact, it looked like a feathered dinosaur from Jurassic Park to me. And I said to myself, are we really going to have feathered dinosaurs in this show? I mean, come on, it looks ridiculous. But now that I understand more what it is and that I see it, it makes a little bit more sense. So I like the idea of all these different sarcophagi being there on the ship as part of it. It's almost like it's its armor. You know, it's very interesting. I would say my favorite character out of the show so far is Lieutenant Saru. I thought Doug Jones did a wonderful job portraying him. Very interesting species, these Kelpians. So I guess they're on their world. There's prey and the hunters, and I guess the Kelpians are the prey. So they've developed this really like sixth sense into being able to sense danger and death. At one point you can even see Lieutenant Saru, like some of these little feelers come out of his head at one point earlier on in the episode, which was very interesting. I'm really interested to see where this character goes. I think something tells me he's going to be a really interesting science officer. And I also think he's just going to be a really interesting addition to the Star Trek aliens, the alien characters from all the different Star Trek series. I would say the Saru is kind of like the Spock and the Data and the 7 and 9 of this show. So I'm looking forward to seeing him develop. The dialogue in Klingon I thought was kind of interesting too. A lot of people online said that it seemed kind of clunky, and it was like they had like marbles in their mouths, or it didn't seem to fit. I actually didn't mind it. It didn't bother me. I didn't think it was too slow. I liked being able to see Klingons talking in Klingon, you know. Actually, my thoughts on it were more like, wow, how are they able to remember all these lines of dialogue, you know, and having to speak in a foreign language, you know. So it was pretty interesting to see. The other thing I like are the sets. There's no denying it. Those sets are beautiful. They could tell that CBS threw a lot of money into this to make the sets look futuristic and computerized and up to date. May not necessarily fit with the timeline that it's supposed to be saying that it's in, but it is really neat looking for 21st century Star Trek. So I'll definitely give 2 thumbs up to the sets. What I didn't like about the episode, there were a few odds and ends. The beginning part where Giorgio and Burnham were in the desert. I thought it took way too long. It was too chatty, too much dialogue. It kind of reminded me of some of the Star Wars movies. I'm sure that you guys have realized, in each Star Wars movie, there's a brief period in the movie, about maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, where there's like a side story going on that doesn't really deal completely with the rest of the main story. Like if you look at A New Hope, everything was, that period of time was C-3PO and R2-D2 on Tatooine before they get to Luke. How about with the, what are they called, the Rathgars or whatever in The Force Awakens? Didn't really have much to do with the story. It was just like a filler for a period. And that's kind of what that beginning scene from the episode appeared like to me. It was just talky. I think they could have cut it in half and it would have been a lot better. But I got bored with it. I actually stopped following along with it and I daydreamed, which is very rare for me to do during a Star Trek episode, believe me. The part where Burnham, when that big bright light, the torch was lit, and Burnham runs to her quarters or wherever she went and calls her daddy, calls Sarek, I thought that was just completely out of place. My feeling would be she's the first officer. She would want to be on the bridge with her captain and with the crew and trying to help figure out whatever they were going to do with this dilemma. But her running and calling Sarek just didn't seem to fit. Even if she was trying to get advice on how to deal with them, it was an odd behavior to see from a Starfleet officer like that. So I didn't really care for that. The mutiny at the end of the episode. I don't like seeing any mutiny in Star Trek. I don't think there ever has been any real mutiny like from any of the regular characters. There were some, like with the Pegasus in The Next Generation, there was that mutiny there, but it wasn't with regular characters. So to see her basically come on the bridge, try to tell her captain what to do, then knock her out, then lie to the crew to follow her orders, it just was out of place to me. It just felt very non-Star Trek. I just didn't care for it. I'm just going to put this out there right now. The look of the Klingons, I despise it. I hate it. I don't think there was any need for the Klingon makeup to change. Now, of course, they could put some sort of little in-canon kind of explanation that they might be from a different area of Kronos, or they're part of the different houses, or things of that nature. Personally, I'd feel a little better about their look if the producers would try to sprinkle in some regular Klingons, whether they have the smooth foreheads from the original series or some of the bumps from the other series. Mix them all up. But beyond that, I don't understand why they decided to change something that was already good, something that's really iconic. Yes, they changed them in the 70s, but there were only a few episodes the Klingons were in. Now we have 50 years of Star Trek with Klingons in all the different series, and it kind of looked like they came on a standardization of the way they would look. And I just don't understand why they felt a need to change it just to change it. That bothers me. I don't like it, and that's just the way I'm going to feel about it. The beginning credits and the music, I didn't like them. I didn't like the credits being like these weird, like, drafting sketches. And the music wasn't the type of Star Trek music that would make you want to put your head up and feel proud, you know, and think about that ship or think about that crew. You know, it was just a very flat piece of music to me, and the credits just looked just animated. You know, not like computer animated, but just like drawing animated. It just didn't fit. But with the main theme, I'm hoping that they'll actually, what I'm hoping is that might just be a temporary thing with like the drafting kind of pictures, and that they'll actually go and try to put together some sort of like beautiful opening with shots of Discovery in space. Think about Voyager's opening theme with all those beautiful shots of the ship in space around the planets and the rings and the suns, and then compare it to those drafting images that you saw in Discovery's opening. Just didn't fit. I didn't like it. So at this point, it's been 4 days since Discovery has aired. I have not yet gotten CBS All Access yet, so I was not able to go and watch the second episode yet. So many of you guys will already know the answers to these questions, but they're just going to be for me and other people who may have not seen number 2 yet because they haven't gotten CBS All Access. But my questions for number 2 based off this show are, what happens to the Federation and Klingon fleets? I'm really interested to see. Are they going to destroy each other? Is there going to be this big battle? Eventually, is something special going to happen where the Klingons retreat, the Federation come and offer assistance? Does a war start? Does an actual war start from this incident? Or is there something bigger that it's going to be building to? Was Saru correct in detecting the coming death? Are there going to be deaths on the Shenzhou? I know that eventually something has to happen that leads Burnham to going to the Discovery, along with Saru. So my guess is there's probably going to be a lot of death and destruction, at least with the Shenzhou and some of the other Federation starships. With the Klingons, I don't know. And then the last one would be, what consequences will Burnham have for disobeying orders and attacking the captain? You know, again, you don't see a whole lot of mutiny in Star Trek, so especially from the regular characters, especially the main character. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that out. I'm really hoping that there's some sort of reprimand or some sort of lasting effect. I think that would make the character more human, but also would make the whole situation a little bit more believable. So what I'd like to do at this point is move on to the segment of the show called Open Channel. Alright, so going back to last week's episode, I wanted to have some basic comments from all of you. What were your thoughts on Discovery before it aired? So I got only 2 responses this time around, and it was from Jonathan and Rick, like I did in the last episode. Thank you, Jonathan and Rick, for answering and watching and submitting comments. I appreciate it. So Rick had to say, so I haven't had a lot of time to do research on Discovery, but the color of the Klingons does concern me a bit. They just don't look Klingon, but like was said, it might really just have to do with only seeing a small subset of the houses of Klingon, I hope. I do agree that the issue with the sets and effects are just because of modern tech versus 60s tech. What I'm most excited about is that it might be a way to bridge the gap between the generations. I know I'm excited to watch this show with my kids. Thank you, Rick, for that comment. Also, just so all of you know, when he's saying about the color of the Klingons, he's responding to the comment that I made in the last episode about seeing them with purple skin and that whitish yellow one that we found out is Vok, the new torchbearer. But that's what he means. It's nothing inappropriate, anything like that. So again, thank you, Rick, very much for that comment. Jonathan says, think of the look of the Klingons as we look at the various skin tones on our own planet Earth. It is illogical to believe that every single Klingon from each of the 24 houses will look exactly the same. Kronos is a big planet, and we've really only ever seen Klingons from a handful of the great houses in all previous iterations of Trek. Absolutely. So again, like I said, I'm not budging on the whole thing with the Klingon makeup. I don't understand. I think it was ridiculous that they felt the need to change it just to change it. But if they have a way of describing it and making it kind of flow into the show, I'm all for it. You know, I mean, we've seen, if you think about some of the other races we've seen, look at the Vulcans and the Romulans. We've had white-skinned ones, we've had dark-skinned ones. In Star Trek 3, you saw Asian Vulcans. Even the Kazon in Voyager, there were Caucasian ones, and there were also a couple African-American black ones. So the skin color is not a big deal per se. It was just the look, seeing Klingons with purple skin and this cream-colored yellowish white skin just was odd because I'd never seen it with the Klingons before. So it'd be very interesting to see what some of the other Klingons look like as the show goes on. Thank you very much. So your assignment for next week's Open Channel is please post your thoughts on the first episode of Discovery. Please don't go on to episode 2 yet. I'm hoping that within the next couple of days I'll have CBS All Access. I can watch the episode and I can move on and give a review of that. But yes, I'd love to have your thoughts on Discovery Episode 1. So that pretty much concludes our episode for this week. I would give it 3 out of 4 stars, the first episode. It definitely, one thing I will still say is, at this point, I can't accept that the show is in prime timeline. Now there's a novel coming out that's supposed to show how they connect with the cage. However, the novels aren't considered to be canon. So now, are the Discovery novels going to be considered canon? I'm just curious. But the show just has too much of a different feel to it with the technology that it's right now. It's hard for me to kind of say, okay, I can put these two types of technology and mesh them together. Now, like I said, if they come up with some sort of explanation for it in the show, it'll make me feel a lot better. But until then, that's kind of my status right now, is that Discovery is more of a third alternate reality rather than part of the prime timeline. But I'm hoping that that'll change, that view will change. Alright, so thank you for participating and watching episode 3. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just type in Pit Trekkie, it'll show up. You can also put Pittsburgh Trek Chat. Like and follow on Facebook. Go to www.facebook.com/PGHTrekChat. You can also follow me on Twitter at PGHTrekChat. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, may yins live long and prosper.